And we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to InvenTank, the show for inventors where I'm joined each and every week with a special guest host to help answer all of your burning invention questions. I'm your host, Lisa Lloyd, and we're streaming live today from the Las Vegas Convention Center where they're hosting the National Hardware Show. So if you're for all of those geeks out there like me who absolutely love to play with different things at Home Depot and Lowe's, this is normally the best show in the world to go to. Of course, they're still coming back from COVID, but it's exciting and it's really fun to connect with people again. In a moment, I'll open up our forum here for your questions, and we'll get to those answers in the order they come in. So please drop your questions in the chat at any time. Joining me as my guest host today is Matt Nuccio. Matt is the president of Designage, a one-stop shop for bringing toys and games to market. They've been doing this for over 30 years, and we are in for a treat. I'm excited about this conversation today. They are the backend support for toy companies, both big and small. So they're going to I know that Matt's going to have a lot of stories to share with us. He's served on numerous boards, including the Toy Association, Chicago Toy and Game Fair, which I've been to that show as well, the UIA, which they're here today doing some wonderful lectures, and his team has been responsible for working with brands like Mattel, Hasbro, Folgers, Gucci, Coca Cola. I could go on and on. The logos on your site are very impressive, Matt. Welcome so much for being here today. And thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. I wish I was at the I can hear you just fine. Yeah. Hardware show.
Here we go.
Hardware is just another version of tool. So can you hear me, Lisa?
One more time.
I said,
yes, I can.
Okay, good.
Your video is just chopping up a little bit, but hopefully that'll get
yeah,
straight away. There's not a lot of people in the media.
Yeah, your video's chopping up too. I don't know. I don't know. So hopefully we make it through.
Hopefully we'll get through it. Yeah, it'll still be fun. And if we need to do it again, will you come back on and do this with me again another time?
Absolutely. Yeah, no problem with that.
Oh boy, here we go. Okay. Well, maybe if I don't interrupt you and I just give you the floor, the internet will work well for everybody. And by the way, folks, as you're joining, would you please let me know if it's my end or if it's Matt that you can't hear, so I can see if there's something I can do to go about fixing that on my end while sharing with us. But if you could kick things off, Matt, with just introducing yourself to the audience, tell us a little bit about some of the more fun projects, maybe one or two of your favorite projects that you've worked on, and I'll start fielding those questions as they come in. Sound good?
Sure. I'll just be a talking, rambling head. Yeah, my name is Matt Nuccio. I was born and raised in the toy industry. I'm second generation. My father started the toy industry in 1969, working for Ideal Toys, and then was at Aurora, then eventually was at HG Toys. When I was in high school, the company my father worked for was being purchased. He didn't want to move to Chicago from New York. So him and my mother started Designage out of the family garage. And I was there from the onset, helping out as much as I could, and really has been working at Designage in some capacity since then. So I think we're now 34 years. So I've been working consistently in the toy industry for 34 years. Yeah, it's been crazy. Used to be impressive when I was like in my 30s and telling people I've been doing stuff for 20 years now.
More.
Sure. What's your question, Lisa?
Do you work more with smaller companies and independent inventors, or do you find more of the large projects coming your way?
Well, we actually do both. So we often help small inventors who want to become a toy company or get their toy to market. We'll help them develop their product through every means. That's design, engineering, manufacturing, setting them up with distribution and marketing, and really just making sure all the costing is in line. But at the same time, we also work for Hasbro and Mattel and Spin Master, developing product, conceptualizing product. Also, we invent and license product to big toy companies ourselves. So, love a bad connection, but
okay.
But yeah, we work with tons of toy companies, all shapes and sizes.
Oh my gosh. All right. So what would you say are some of the bigger mistakes that
Okay, I think you just asked what are some of the bigger mistakes
coming to you make?
Startups that make well
that inventors.
Yeah, well, from an inventor standpoint, really not understanding the market, right, or seeing what's been done before, or getting a sense of, costs of things. Toys is a fashion-based market, and it's trend-based. So to have an idea of what's going on and is important, because you don't want to like come around and with an item that just seems like it's yesterday's news. Like like you wouldn't be pitching bell bottoms jeans at the height of skinny jeans. There's trends, and unfortunately, good or bad, the industry and the buyers follow them. So I don't know. Any other questions? I can maybe I could read the feeds, Brian. I can see what I can answer. So I'm sure it's a good day over at the National Hardware Show. Oh, it looks like, oh, okay. Yeah, if you could do that, I think that might help. So, geez, I don't know what to do. There we go. Is it just me now? Did we lose Lisa? This is an interesting interview. Yeah, it's good. So, yep. So I'm not sure what to do right now. So I was being interviewed, and the interviewer lost a connection, and I'm pretty darn sure that I am still live feeding. So I wish there was some. Let's see. We got comments. Okay, good. I see. Anyone? If you got questions, ask them in the thing. And okay. Someone says, when bringing a product to a larger company for license, does the prototype need to be complete and final, or would they look at digital versions that has been completed? Well, it really depends on the product, right? So if there's problems that need to be solved, yeah, you have to have a prototype that solves that issue. You can't tell them that they have to figure out how to make it float or how to make it shoot 30 yards. Oftentimes toy companies, when they license something, they're licensing something because it solves a problem, and it gives them a solution to that problem. They don't want to just they don't want to license something and then have to do all the work and figure everything out. Let's see. What are my thoughts on what happened to Bunch of Balloons? I think it's tragic. It's there's the patent system is needs some work there, and there are plenty of these sharks in the water that will descend and try to pounce and hop on a trend. Like as I was saying before, the toy industry is fashion based, and like any fashion, as soon as something takes off, people are going to try to knock it off, because they know by the time that the trend is completed, usually there's not enough time to really sue or chase. So it's very unfortunate. So let's see what else we got here. Here we go. I was reading and answering my own questions.
I am so grateful you did that. I actually switched. I'm using my own data plan instead of the Wi-Fi here. So hopefully that'll be even better. The other option too is that we have Brian that's going to join us, and I want to get into some questions. He's actually brought something that he's going to share with you and get your feedback on real time here. So we don't want you to hold back any punches. Be as honest as you can. And then I think we'll come back and we'll address some questions here. So I just want to get that done at least before hopefully anything else happens. Thank you everyone for your patience. All right, Brian, welcome.
Hey, there I am. Hey.
All right. So Brian, give Matt your best pitch here.
Do you have that sell sheet to share, or are you going to do that later?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I forgot. I thought, because you can share it here also if you have it.
Oh, I don't have it up. I'm at a different computer than I normally am at. If you can, that's great. But so while she's doing that, so Matt, hi. Yep. I'm in Lisa's group for inventing. She's my mentor. She requested if any of her students have anything in the toy world that we can talk about today. So good, bad, and different. I'm taking one for the team. This was actually like in the back of my file, and I told Lisa, I'm like, I didn't really ever expect to like pull this out again. Not to say that it's not a good idea. So let's talk about it. I thought of an idea when I have young children, when they were 2-3 years old, playing with slime. I thought, there's a million slime products. That's kind of overdone, but I designed a packaging that shows slime on the shelf in like a blister pack, sort of like a watch. So I coined the term slime time. And then within this, it's a very nostalgic type of product that just is very simple. Catch your eye at the cash register or at the dollar store or Five Below. It's an easy purchase because it would be inexpensive, and slime wears out, gets thrown away after a couple of days anyway. But this would be in a perfect world, this would be like Hatchimals. There's different embodiments coming out, different features within this product that's different each time you buy it, and it's inexpensive, so it's a easy, sure, why not at the store for the parent, for the kid. So if we can share my
okay, here we go.
So it's very simple, but basically I'm looking at and I have a provisional patent around it. What I thought I could grasp at was basically the embodiment of packaging and then the components. So this is very rough, as far as like, it's not a prototype, it's not a looks like, it's not even a real product, it's just a drawing, right? But the gist of it's right there. So the packaging shows the embodiment of a watch, and the slime is contained in the center container there.
The watch you flip open and there's slime in there,
you can wear it or it's not wearable. It depends on that specific embodiment, like once you open the package. But if you scroll down, you can see how the kids are interacting with it. So the basic gist is you'll always get a toy. The toy is to interact with the bands and the slime. However, it makes a bridge, it makes a slide, it makes a road. Slime is slime. You play with that however you want. And then a mystery ingredient. So it's kind of like a throwback toy. Very simple, come up with dozens of different ways to market it, from a different toy, a different mystery ingredient, such as food coloring, glitter, beads, just something to mix in there, get your hands dirty. Remember, this is for 2 to 5 year olds. And that's the gist of it.
That's the gist of it. So, yep. I mean, if I was reviewing this at first, I'm really confused in the sense of scale.
Okay.
And it's watch size, but then I look at the images in the front, and that the canister, it could be forced perspective, of course, but if you look at the size of the car, the package and the size of the car in the kid's hand, are you gonna? I mean, is there enough slime in a device like that to really make it fun? Right. I would think there wouldn't be, unfortunately.
Sure, it'd have to be a deep container
deep
to
container.
have the image of
Right. So, and I think that's the biggest headache you would have with an item like this. But that being said, I mean, I would advise you to explore other ways of wearable of slime, right? Maybe that it's not just the canister that holding the slime, but it goes into the bracelet, and the bracelet can be some sort of device that can also be slime, or or you need a collection of them that can all connect, and they can travel between like a row of watches, circa the way people used to wear swatches in the 80s.
Sure.
There's you just don't stop at the seat of the design. You keep going. So that's where I think a prototype or something like this would have been better, because you would have, I think, quickly realized that there was an issue just in the amount of material that you were presenting.
Yeah, absolutely. I've thought the same thing about the perspective and the scale. I haven't even gotten to the point of prototyping this guy.
Well,
that brings up a really good point. One of the things that we talk about at the Invention Accelerator, and I'm sure many people talk about inside their programs, or I hope they do anyway, is that getting that proof of concept isn't really just to prove to other people, but to prove to yourself if it's going to solve a big enough problem for enough people, as we talk about, in a way that's better enough, right? The people will like it better enough to choose it over all the other alternatives they have in the world. And so you think, Brian, if you had made this, you would have already had that answer to the question, or do you think the conversation would have still been necessary?
Oh, I probably would still be heading down that road. This was definitely before I entered your program, Lisa. Like I said, this was kind of in the back of the file cabinet for a long time. But yeah, definitely making it and getting it going down that route would have answered a lot of those questions. And I'm sure it was still had some to answer. And ultimately, So Matt, like just from a whole inventing perspective, whether it's this product or other products, would you like to see sales, or is that not necessary? Like, how do you move forward? Like, yeah, I like the concept and it looks like it is fun or it gets the job done. Would you guys be happy to take it from there to see like actual market
Yeah.
demand? Or
Yeah, no, of course. That's often what we do. If I'm onboarding, if I'm taking somebody on, whether it be for licensing or to develop a product line for them, and they're new to the market, or maybe they've launched a product or two, but they still need some advice. We're going to review everything, because either way, I'm vested, right? If I'm your licensing agent or I'm your manufacturer, if there's no clear path to success, or even a path that's even recognizable, I'm not gonna jump on it, because it's a lot of work to develop a product, and it's a lot of time, it's a lot of energy, and especially people who haven't done it before, it's a lot of hand holding and education, and you have to teach them to trust themselves. What baffles me the most is when people have an item and they personally wouldn't play with it or touch it, but they feel like everyone else would. I'm like, that's just bullshit. I'm like, you need to have a design conscience, right? Like an inventor's conscience. Like if it doesn't resonate with you, how do you expect it to resonate with others? So people just think because they thought of it, it's a great idea, but they'll hoodwink. Then they're just selling snake oil.
Right on. Brian, good questions. Anything else you'd like to know before we jump on and move on to some of these other questions?
Since I've got the floor, I'll just ask Matt, like, is there a range of types of products you like to see, from little kids to like big adult kids? Like, what about like backyard games and just games like that? Does anything go?
We'll look at anything.
Okay.
Do, when we have a stable of inventors that in our network that we send wish lists to. There are often things that we are particularly looking for, because the toy industry isn't always necessarily looking for the next greatest idea. What they're generally doing is filling slots. Okay. So they're looking to, an item in their line isn't selling. They need to find something else to go in that space at retail. Otherwise, they're going to lose it. But if they have something that's selling great and you bring them something that's better, they're not going to take your better item because it's already selling for them, and they're not going to spend more marketing dollars to reestablish anything else. So
wow, that's fascinating. I've certainly worked with companies and even been on that side of the desk where we've told people generally what trends were and what we were looking for, but never something as specific as wanting to fill a slot. So that's fascinating to me.
Yeah, that's
good question, Brian.
Everything's planogrammed at retail, so if something goes, they need something that's going to fill it in.
Yeah, I just never really thought about it that granular. Great question, Brian. Anything else?
No, I'm good for now. Thanks, Matt.
All
no
right.
problem.
Thanks, Lisa.
Feel free to stick around if you want to jump back on, Brian. All right, just let me know.
Yeah, I'll be listening in through the normal. Yep, thanks. Bye, guys.
All right, thanks. Good to have you, Matt. Thank you.
Here.
I'm here. Everything is working. Apparently, my phone's got it together, so that's good. And I'm using Visible, if anybody is curious, which is owned by Verizon. So, woohoo! Thank you for Visible for the service today, and thank you for being such a good sport about it and pinch hitting for me while I fell off there for a moment. It looks like people can hear me. I'm not sure where you left off on questions.
I've watched it move quite a lot. So
yep. Okay.
Everything that I'm seeing in the comment section was not there when we started talking.
Okay. So one of the questions was, how many products do you license every year, Matt?
Don't really keep track, although I do know this year because it's been a bit crazier than usual. I don't know why that is, but we've done about 9 deals since January.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a lot. And is that with all different companies?
Well,
is that 9 different companies, or?
It's not 9 different ones. I have 3 with one gigantic company. I can't really talk, who's who, and then the others are with different companies. So 3 with one company, and then the other 6 elsewhere.
Okay. Yeah, I like Jessica's question. It kind of falls in line here with what I was asking before I fell off. What product did you design in the past that was the most fun for you?
Oh, geez. They're all fun for different reasons, right? That's like asking what my favorite.
Yeah, we all love our brain babies. At the end of the day,
they're fun for different reasons. Like we did Run DMC action figures, and I got to hang out with Run DMC. So that was like, that was a lot of fun, But then there's, cool. Then there's they all have a good story, those are really hard questions to answer, But we've also worked on a lot of classic toys over the years, so people like to ask questions about that. So that comes up often.
Do you have a favorite type of toy? Is it like electronics versus games versus? Is there a lane that you like to stay in?
Me personally, I mean, the company, we're all over the place. I know the company. Sure. Right, so I'm fine. I personally like to play games, so I do like games.
What, a man that likes to play games? No, wait, sorry, wrong show. Okay.
I will not call you back to this, Beth.
You're not coming back on the show after all. Well, someone on LinkedIn asks, will the larger toy companies sign an NDA, and or can I feel safe as an inventor if they don't?
They will not sign your NDA. You can sign their NDA. It's very difficult as an independent inventor, if you're not established, to have some sort of level of trust. I mean, and oftentimes a lot of the bigger toy companies will point you to an agent just for that reason, because everybody's scared. They're also scared that you're going to turn around and sue them for something that they've been working on for 2 years and that you just happened to show them like a week ago. And I've seen people blow up on LinkedIn or social media when they're like, I showed this to a company 3 months ago and now it's out. They totally ripped me off. And I'm like, I don't know who is, but they must be amazing because I got something to market in 3 months. It's not. We
need to go steal their employees if that's the case. Right. Yeah. They obviously have a secret ingredient. But you do make a really good point in answering that.
You really want to work through an agent because the agent knows the business and they can calm you down and prevent you from asking all the crazy stuff. I've seen many a deal get destroyed in the negotiation because an inventor just doesn't know the industry or has never really done an agreement before. And they just ask they assume that they're being walked all over. So they come in very aggressively. And then people are like, we don't want to deal with this guy. They're just like, and we've got 20 other items behind us. If this isn't going to make or break our year, we'll just take the other guys instead. And that's always a shame. I think they're negotiating out of fear, and then everything implodes, and then their worst dreams are realized that and they blame everybody else, and it's just simply out of being naive, and this isn't. They don't teach this stuff in school. That's the problem. Like nobody knows what to expect. They think they're walking into a bad music contract in the 1960s where they're going to sign all their songs away and then die broke in an alley. That's what they're worried about.
Right. And not to say that is impossible. I guess it could happen, but if you do this right, it's not completely avoidable. So,
right.
And you bring up a good point. I'm curious, you've been doing this a long time. Do you remember a time in the toy industry where you didn't have to go through a broker? I know you don't have to with all companies anyway, but as a general rule, if you want to work with the big guys in this category, you really have to go through an agent or a broker. When was that not the case, and why did it change?
Well, years ago, you were either in the toy industry or you weren't, right? There was no social media. There's no websites that submit stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't think of terms of brokers or being on the inside. It was just you just pitched the people that you knew. But it's hard. I mean, I've tried to pitch product in categories that I'm not in, even with my little bit of notoriety within the toy industry. But if I walk into a parallel industry that I still get sort of smacked and they don't want to talk to me and they recommend that I talk to this guy or that guy. And I can tell I'm talking to the bottom of the barrel. And then I'm just like, all right, I know where this is going and it's nowhere. So it's hard. If you're on the outside, you have to figure out how to get in, and an agent's one way to get in, or just really hanging around the industry is the other way, just doing events and talking to people and friending them. That's who knows.
And how would someone who's considering doing this go to events? How would they find the events and know which events are the right ones? Because there's hundreds, right?
I mean, if you're fast. Sure. I mean, two that I could recommend right off the bat is People Who Play, formerly known as the Chicago Toy and Game Fair. I do sit on the board of that as well, and that does cater directly to people from the outside who want to sort of meet and greet and pitch their products to people or that are already established in the toy industry.
Perfect.
And the other one's the Toy Association on their site too. They'll also help you navigate your way. And of course, the United Event Association, also a great resource.
UIAUSA.org.
Yes,
okay, so someone on LinkedIn is asking, what are your thoughts on patents and or getting a patent pending before approaching toy companies?
It's such a tricky one because, like I said, the toy industry is a fashion-based industry and it moves very quickly. And oftentimes, by the time a patent's issued, the product has gone its lifespan, and you've been already knocked off. And patents don't happen quickly, especially now, with everything that's going on in the world. Provisional, yes, it can give you some protection, but I don't think it's not the selling point that people think it is. Oftentimes, people come to me and they're like, "And it's patented." I'm like, it's unless it's patented doing something insane. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't need to see something that's patented. I think a lot of times people get paranoid. They call a lawyer. The lawyer, makes them protect everything and everything, and then they bring it to me and let's use the slime watch. Say they patented the heck out of that, right? They get all that stuff, and then I'll make a prototype and be like, well, it doesn't even really work that well, because nobody bothered. They got all these patents before they even developed anything. I think you need to quietly and secretly develop your stuff. And then when everything's solved, then file for your patents, because otherwise you're going to have to go back.
Oh, good. We're back. I thought I was going to lose you again for a second there, but we're okay. No, I totally understand. It is a way to protect what you have already vetted to be an excellent solution to a real problem. If you patent it thinking that alone is a merit for or represents enough merit for licensing, then it doesn't matter how strong the patent is. If it's a bad idea, it's still a bad idea. But having said that, if we assume that it's a great idea and it isn't patented, why would a company choose to license and pay a royalty to someone for something that they don't have any intellectual property on or even patent pending on?
Well, as I stated before, and I'll keep reiterating, because toys is fashion. They want to be first to market.
Because they just know it's in and out.
They know it's in and out, right?
And they're honest. And they're honest, and they have the integrity to pay the royalties.
Yeah, I mean, if you work with
because if there's no patent, technically they don't have to.
Yeah, technically they don't.
There you go.
But the toy industry does, because they live and die off inventors. It's a very inventor heavy industry. They need those fresh ideas. And they don't really want those reputations. And the larger companies are actually pretty good. They give nice advances. They pay their royalties as long as you understand the contracts and what you're negotiating. You can make a living with them. Some of the smaller guys are the ones you have to be careful of. I don't think they go into an agreement with the thoughts of screwing somebody over, but oftentimes they hit hurdles, and for some reason those hurdles bite you, not them.
That's a good way to say it. Really good point. Okay, let's get back to our questions here. Let's see. Michelle is asking, if you have a game you hope to license, is there a minimum distribution that you would expect? I have an licensee, but he has only 150 stores, but also on Amazon. Any advice?
Well, yeah, I mean, we often put minimums into our contracts, and we do it based on on figuring out what sort of distribution these people have. It probably, if someone doesn't have a big distribution network, the licensing them is a big risk. You're investing in them as much as they're investing in you at that point. And I would have argued for a higher royalty rate, just because I'm taking a big risk. Because if they're bringing in 5,000 pieces a year, and you're extrapolating what your royalty is, you only might make $400 a year, and you can argue all you want that here's a minimum guarantee. They'll probably argue that the product failed and walk away and then not pay you your minimum guarantee, which that happens more often than not. A lot of people I find, even though a lot of contracts are written like they have to pay you that minimum, but there are also terms in the agreement, so they'll try to skirt that. It becomes a way to which they can void the contract by not obliging. So you have to be really careful with that.
What are the royalty rates range in the toy category?
Depends on what it is. So if you've got a licensing deal with some huge brand and a classic property, like unfortunately you might think you hit a home run because you got something in Hasbro's Star Wars line, but then you'll be shocked to find out you're getting 1.5%. But the standard's pretty much 5% is the industry standard. If it's got a third-party license, it can be 3 to 4%. Of course, higher deals have been known to be made. They're hard to come by, hard to get, but depends on what you have.
It all depends on, and the margin, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's enough margin in it, and they can afford it. Whereas when it's if it's going to fall into a licensed line, and this is for our audience sake to understand, then they already have to pay the royalties for those licenses. So Star Wars, using Matt's example, there are a lot of other costs associated. So their smaller margins mean smaller royalties, and that's why co-branding often, if someone is going to license your product because of the novelty, then putting some other special licensed brand on it just doesn't make sense. They're going to buy it for what it does, and then everybody gets more money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you add anything to that, Matt, before I ask the next?
No, let's go to the next question.
All right, they're flying in here. Therese is asking, what happens when a toy is developed and it ends up hurting a child? Does the manufacturer get sued or the inventor?
The manufacturer gets sued. You're contractually you're protected against that, unless there's a way to prove that you knew ahead of time that there was an issue.
Yeah. There it is. Yeah, your contract, your licensing agreement should insulate you from that. However, anybody can still name you on the suit, so you might have to even go as far as showing up in court just to have your lawyer say clearly you're not responsible, and then it gets dismissed and you're back out again. But generally, those licensing agreements will insulate you unless you know, like Matt said. Michelle asked, slime. Oh, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, oftentimes, injuries and stuff occur due to issues in the manufacturing phase or something. It's generally not design, So, I think I've never been sued over things. So I'm not, and we develop product day in and day out. So.
And your job is to make sure that it's been tested and safety tested and all of that. That's what you do well. So anybody who wants to know how to do that, you reach out to Matt. We'll pop up his contact info here in just a moment for you all. Michelle's asking about this line, Brian. I don't know if you want to help jump back in. I'm not sure. Let's see here. What about for a larger disc/container? Make it in the headlight of a doctor's kit? That could be kind of cute. He could be operating and his slime comes out.
Yeah.
All right, you probably don't need to comment on it, but it is fun. What do you think, Matt? Would that make a big enough difference to make it worth the market on? Or?
I mean, it is a bigger canister, so that may help. But I'm sure we can stick slime in lots of areas. So there's slime oozing out of every orifice of your body.
Everybody's going to be thinking, because we all have all these problem solvers on this show, so they're all going to be thinking about how to fix the problem that you pointed out. Christopher's asking, hello, Lisa, question, Mr. Nuccio, would you put arts and crafts products in the same category as toys? It's a good question.
Yeah. Well, there's yes and no. There's an arts and crafts section of the toy aisle, but there's also an activities aisle. So they do get separated amongst certain retailers. So because it does blur a line. So if you get something like Sculpey, right, it can be used by a professional artist, but can also be used by a child. It's going to, fall into that activities section. But if it's clearly a child's toy, it's going to be in the arts and crafts section.
And Shanika is actually asking about whether you do you license adult board games, which was actually going to tie into what I was going to ask you. When is a toy no longer a toy? At what age? Or is it all ages for toys when talking with someone like you specifically?
It's all ages. So do we license adult board games? Well, we have to talk on the side to find out how adult your adult board game is. But
what adult? Yeah. How many X's are in it?
The short answer is yeah. We do games for all ages. And there's no cutoff point. And the toy market isn't. A lot of people think like toys that's for kids. Like no, and yet everyone's quick to point out there's some 40-year-old guy living in his mother's basement collecting toys right now. And there's plenty of people And there's plenty of people, having parties around board games. It's like a renaissance of toys and games right now. It's not a dying market. Everyone's like, oh, the iPad must kill your business. I'm like, yeah, but I bet you were at a party this year where everyone played a game, and you probably didn't do that 10 years ago. So yeah, the market's expanded.
Right on. Yeah, whether it's cornhole or beer pong, those are all games that would be for adults, right? So you can help get those licensed also.
A lot of adult drinking games and party games and what we like to refer to as corruptible games, which is a game you could play with your kids. You have a dirty mind, you can play with your friends, and it's a completely different game.
Corruptible games. I'm going to have to add that category to my list of licensees. Okay, so again, we have a LinkedIn user who's asking, when licensing products, do you normally fly out to have a face-to-face meeting or present over Zoom?
I have an unusually long relationship with most of my clients. So, usually, we fly out. I way prefer to pitch in person, but we usually plan a night around it too. So a lot of their relations guys and girls, we'll have our meeting and then we'll be out to 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's a great relationship. So I prefer to do it in person.
With COVID, obviously, everybody had to get used to doing things over Zoom a lot more, and so that's definitely happening more often. But do you think that if an inventor is doing it themselves, they should be worried if they don't do it in person?
No, not necessarily. But it's hard to be entertaining on a screen like this. I feel I'm much better in person. If you and I were sitting in front of each other, I think we'd have not that we're having a bad interview, but we'd have a much better interview if I was sitting across from you.
Without a doubt. There's no doubt. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. I hope that helps answer your question. And yes, Dave, I am at the hardware show. Michelle, if you have a game that you hope to license, is there a minimum distribution that you would expect for it to be worthwhile? I have an interested potential license. This is actually the same one we talked about earlier.
Yeah, but I can add on top of that, which is me. I don't really want to license anyone who's not going to make at least 30,000 units, and ideally, we want to make sure that they're making 100,000 or more. But that being said, if it's an opportunity, it's an opportunity. If they're like I said, they're rolling the dice and they're, if they're going to try to make 5,000 or 10,000 pieces. Who knows? It may take off, but the companies that make larger quantities, they already have they do it because they have the distribution. So it's you can tell who you're dealing with by finding out what the quantity is pretty quickly.
Someone mentioned that we have a lot of questions coming in from YouTube, and I just wanted to let our audience know that I do see the YouTube questions. So if I'm not getting to them, if I haven't gotten to yours by the end of the show, please make sure you let me know so I can figure out why we had. This is our first time also streaming live on YouTube. Actually, no, this is our second. Michelle, I hope that answers your question. I would just add that one of the things that I do is prioritize my hit list. So when I'm creating the list of companies that I would ideally like to license to, put the ones that I want the most at the top, and then they go down the list in priority, so that if for some reason I'm not getting it, I still have companies. And if a smaller company is going to be not the best deal, but it's still a deal after I've exhausted those other opportunities, they've totally turned it down, then that's better than nothing. So that's one way to look at it. Maybe not start with them.
The company too. Like one thing I think is like people who show up at trade shows and just walk and they pitch to anybody and everybody. I mean, you could literally be pitching to somebody who has zero distribution. It's like a year or two into the business, who's like no better than you are, and sometimes if you got a really great idea and it's not going anywhere, maybe you should invest in yourself and just become your own toy company. You can make a lot more. You can make a living selling 5,000-10,000 units a year. You can't make a living licensing 5,000, 10,000 pieces a year.
So looking at the trade show floor, how am I doing here? There we go. Looking at the trade show floor, Matt, how would you tell people to take advantage of walking around the show and how would you assume how big they are, for example, if they decided to go to a show to find prospective licensees?
Well, I mean, obviously booth size is a major indicator, and it's usually where they are in in a trade show, you'll kind of notice the like companies are usually fight for the same positions of stuff, and then you'll find these other sections where it's like obviously tons of new companies. I personally, I try not to pitch or cold pitch at trade shows. I don't really think you get much out of it. Oftentimes, you're talking to like some sales associate or some sales rep who doesn't even have any communication with the, is never going to tell the owner about it. It's just not, it's not worth it. So better off just getting some data, giving yourself an introduction, and following up later.
And at least getting started with folks, it's a great way to just make an introduction. Say, hey, I know you're busy, you're at the show. I'd love to speak with you after the show. I just wanted to give you my card or whatever. But you're not taking up too much time. You can put a face to the voice.
Yeah, maybe try and do something memorable without humiliating yourself.
Right. I'm good at it. I don't know why you would tell me to stop doing that. I'm very good at humiliating myself. Here we go. Do larger toy companies have a quota for new inventions that they try to meet for the year? I love that question.
Nope. No, they do not.
How do any of the larger, the Mattels of the world companies have any kind of a specific mandate or budget for innovation in general, not just new products, but innovation? Do you see that?
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, absolutely. That's every. Yeah, Design Edge lives and breathes off of those budgets. They come to us to develop and flesh out their concepts, and I mean, some of those big guys, they're big numbers. People forget. These are multi-billion-dollar corporations. They're not playing. This is the big boys sandbox.
Is there a difference in the amount you can earn, the earning potential from a toy versus a game? Do you find that one is more profitable than the other for an inventor?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Reason being is it's really about the price point than anything else. I would much rather sell, 100,000 units of $100 item than $1 million of a 50-cent item. It's like that's where the margin's at. But boards can be games. What games have that toys don't have is a much longer tail. Their shelf life is much longer. I have games that have been on the market for a dozen years. I don't have any toys that have that much already.
And that just makes sense.
Yeah. So you might sell 1 million units a year of a game, but you might sell 30,000, 40,000 units a year for 10 years.
That's incredible. If board games have an average, probably what retail price? So there's probably some sort of average range of royalties that an inventor could expect to make on something like that, right?
About 5%. I would say the average game right now is between $24 and $29. There's also in the mass market stuff, you'll get the $14.99 retail. But again, if you're seeing it in Walmart and Target, I can guarantee you that's 100,000 units just in that chain.
So folks can do the math if they're trying to figure that out. I don't know if you're familiar, Matt, with RangeMe. Is there a company like RangeMe for the industry? Is the question Michelle has for you. But are you familiar with RangeMe?
I am not familiar with RangeMe, no.
It is a online networking platform for retailers and manufacturers or vendors. So if I have a toy and I go to RangeMe, you have a Walgreens, Walmart, all of the different, I think there's even department stores now on there, but it's primarily mass and commodity type stuff, retailers.
Mm-hmm. No,
so I guess the question is there any kind of meeting platform for toy companies?
Or what are they picking up? Are they picking up items that are being manufactured? Is that this? Are they looking, or is this a platform for Inventor?
Yeah, it's buyers. It's like speed dating for buyers, but online.
I'm not sure if there are things like that. I know the Toy Association does events like that. We'll put people in front of Target or Walmart and have them pitch stuff. So we do things like that. But I am not aware if there's a platform that does that.
I'm pretty sure, Michelle, if you ask them, they have toy buyers there, but it's going to be the toy buyers for the specific retail chains that are listed there. So if that's the kind of store you want to be in, they likely have a toy buyer there, or you can get in front of someone that can get you in front of a toy buyer. Again, in LinkedIn, when it doesn't say who they are, I think they're just not logged into LinkedIn. Is the New York show a good event to attend for inventors? I assume that's the New York Toy Fair?
No, we're asking New York Now, which is the gift show. So is the New York Now event? Yes. I go there. I have friends in the toy repping business, and you'll find some smaller guys there. It's definitely a great place for inspiration. I like to go every now and then. Gift in the Atlanta gift show is great too. Yeah, you can run into some serious players at that show.
At the Atlanta or the New York Now?
Both.
Moving on. What is an average rate that agents typically charge to help get products licensed? I think that's a great question too. Thank you for asking.
It's all over the place. It really depends on the type of agent and what they bring to the table. I know.
What's the range?
I know some agents who do 60-40 in their favor, and then some do 60-40 in the inventor's favor, and then some that do 50-50. I tend to do 50-50, mostly because often when I bring an item in, they look immediately to me to ask me if I know it can be done and if it can be developed. And they gotta. I luck out because we are a product development company, that when I'm pitching stuff, they know that if I'm bringing it in, that it's doable. I'm not walking anything in that's going to be a nightmare.
Right. And why wouldn't anybody be willing to give up 50% just to have you at that helm with your domain expertise and relationships? When do you like people? And I've popped up, for those of you who are just listening, I've popped up Matt's email address, which is Matt, M-A-T-T, @designedge.net. So you can reach out directly to him, and that will also answer your question, Michelle, with regard to reviewing sell sheets. Yes, you can send Matt your sell sheet here. He'll review it and get back to you. But Matt, when do you like inventors to come to you? At what stage, preferably, do you have?
Any stage is fine. I'll talk to you when, usually whatever you have needs some sort of massaging. What I hate is a lot of people think that, I've heard a lot of inventor relations people tell me that, oh, you can show it to me at any phase. If they don't know anything about product development, and then you've overbuilt something, all they see is expense. They think they can see.
All they see is what?
Expense. Like, this thing's going to be too much to make. Oftentimes when we develop stuff for pitching, we're very conscious of making sure that the value looks like what we want it to be. That if we're thinking at retail, this item should be a $9.99 item, we want the prototype to look like it's a $9.99 item. It doesn't necessarily have to look awesome, but it can't be like so overbuilt that it looks like it costs you, $150. And we see that a lot, overbuilt prototypes.
As in over-engineered?
Over-engineered, too much mass, like just to, it just
not designed to scale.
Yeah, designed to scale is a big part of it, right? Yeah.
So how can inventors get the answers to those questions? I know that they can come to you. What advice would you have for someone who doesn't have a toy, for example, who may be listening today, that doesn't know how to figure out how to get cost of goods at scale?
Well, you need to find somebody. I think you need to find somebody that does, or you literally walk retail and you look at what things cost and you try your best to make sure that it looks like it's got the same perceived value. You're just going to have to do some homework, son.
Good answer. Can somebody come to you if they don't have a toy for the design side?
We do tons of stuff outside of toys, as you were mentioning. It's just some of my clients. My big joke is our clients range from Hasbro to Hooters, because it's true. Like, we develop all these different types of things.
That's funny. I'm in Vegas, and so I've noticed a lot of things have changed over the years. And we were talking about Hooters yesterday. Who comes to mind? Matt wants to know, and I think this might be a trick question, but Matt's asking. Ready? I'm going to pop it up for you. Who comes to mind when watching a sports?
pitching sports collectibles. Well, sports collectibles is a sort of its own niche market, right? I would really go to a show, but you just ask who comes to mind. I don't know if it's true. I mean, my head went to Topps like immediately, but I don't know if that's really the best company for that. Sports collectible stuff. I mean, if you get into licensing, it's McFarlane's got a lot of good action figures that center around sports, but it's a difficult area because generally the licensing rates are very low because they're either paying for the league's license and or the player on top of that. So when that stuff could be 30 points in just in the royalties that they have to pay to the league and the player before they have to pay you a royalty. So it's a really difficult category to innovate in. But
I get a lot of inventors submitting products to me that.
Oh, good. Sorry.
No, please continue. Please, I want to hear.
Oh, I was going to say people should follow me more on LinkedIn in the next couple of weeks because I can't talk too much about it at this exact moment. But I just got cast on a show on NBC, and we're going to be looking for inventors that in the sporting goods area. So, but I'll give more detail. In the next
so look up Matt on LinkedIn and connect with him there, he's saying, so that you can talk more about it when he has time to. That's exciting. Congratulations. I cannot wait to hear more about that. Wow. One of our LinkedIn users would like to know if you charge for consultations.
Sometimes. Depends on what it is. Like sometimes people send me something and I take a quick look and I know that it's a quick conversation. I try my hardest to get a sense of what it is because the last thing I want to do is take somebody's money to tell them that their baby is ugly and that it's not licensable. So I try to be kind. But there's other people who really need a lot of consulting or consoling. So I have to we are the at the end of the day. So I have to monetize somehow. But case by case. I try to be light. And I'm not a lawyer. I'm not looking to get $400 an hour.
So we started off talking a little bit before it cut off at the beginning of our program. And by the way, we're down to only about 8 minutes. So if anyone out there has any last questions, get them in there now. There's a little bit of a time delay. So I need to see that before we wrap up here. But can you give me one example of something that you were sure was going to succeed and didn't? Something that didn't believe in and didn't. And then why, please?
Sure. My ex-wife. No, I'm kidding.
Which one? No. Oh my God, you're awesome.
No, there's tons. That happens all the time. I mean, the odds of really taking off are very slim. It's just like music. You can have there's how many great songs written every year, and the ones that take off, there's no true way to tell. It just the other analogy I like to use is like every summer there's some movie that's posed to be the next big blockbuster, and its opening weekend tanks. Right.
Totally.
So, it just happens so much. So, and usually you sit on it, you bring it back, you reskin it, you show it 3 years later, and then it works.
Oh, I love that you said that because I have done that. One of my products, my second invention was called Pop Tops. And I had somebody come to me and offer to make it, and he wanted to be the sales guy. And he was already in Walmart with some other products and stuff. So he was convinced if I just invented something for him, we would make millions of dollars. And he wasn't able to get it in the stores. So I shelved it, and then later I licensed it to Goody about 2 years later, actually. Mm-hmm. And so people remember that it's never too late, right? Just keep it on your plate.
Yeah, always.
But
always
is there what can an inventor do to validate the opportunity as much as possible before investing a lot of time and money?
I mean, if you wanted to talk to somebody like me, really just to get a sense of its validity, right? Somebody who understands the marketplace, who understands the trends, who also knows the history of what's been done before. I see a ton of stuff that's just like recycled versions of what people played with as a kid. and they think they're reinventing. Meanwhile, they don't realize it's, we're in the 2020s and they're showing me like a new version of like lawn darts from the 70s. Like, it's like this is
right. It's new to them. Not new
yeah.
to us. Yeah.
Right.
New to the kids. It's funny. So speaking with experts is certainly one good way to do that. Have you ever used Merwin or IBM Watson or any of those predictive technologies, the AI predictive stuff out there?
I've been involved in people who like run stuff through that sort of those things. I'm still a go by my gut kind of guy. I mean, there is value to that. It's, any tool you can take advantage of, but take it with a grain of salt. Again, I go right back.
Qualified.
Yeah, I just go back to the conscience because if you wouldn't buy it, I don't know how the hell you'd expect anyone else to buy it.
Your gut, though, between your massive amount of domain expertise, doing this as long as you have, plus I suspect you came into the business with good instincts. That's probably part of what landed you where you are.
I have a very big gut.
Big gut, yeah. Not to be belly. But with someone who's maybe never invented anything, it's a mom and she's playing with a kid and she realizes, gosh, this is a really fun, teachable moment that I can turn into a game. And so she creates this card game. She doesn't know how to evaluate the opportunity. What advice would you give to someone who doesn't have connections with someone like you to find someone? Or how could they find someone to talk to get that expert opinion?
First places I would go would be to the Toy Association's website or whatever industry website. So maybe if it's not a toy, whatever industry, right? So there's always a trade association, whether it's the hardware industry or if it's a toy industry, and you see what advice that they're willing to give. They usually know who the right players are and who's got the good reputations, and they'll try to point you to people that can be of help. But inventing is not just like, oh, I had a great idea, I want everyone else to throw money and like aren't I smart because I thought of this. It doesn't work like that. You have to be able to put some time and some money into these things. I've never just like been in a room and just like, we should do this and then made $1 million. It just doesn't happen. Like,
Really?
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of Shark Tanks. It seems like they're coming off and just getting rich overnight. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm just uninformed. I'm doing something wrong myself, apparently.
It's you. Yeah, it is. Someone would like to know here from LinkedIn, do you typically present a contract when working with inventors?
Yeah, I have like a one-pager because the real contract is going to be between the inventor and I and whoever we license to. So I try to, just have like a quick, like, hey, yeah, we're agreeing to work together, and that's about it. And and then I also tell people they always want to know like what the terms are. I'm like, I'm not in the business of collecting unsellable inventions. So if it's not going anywhere and you want it back, it's not going to be a problem. It's just I just wish you could.
Right. Yeah. If you've been through your list and it's not working for them, you can part ways friends and they can keep trying if they want to.
Yes.
So when working with a broker and there's a royalty split, how are those typically those payments typically made? Is there a third-party account that then pays both of you independently? Does the company pay each other separately?
My agreement's up. So I share in the contract. So and I have both parties listed, and I make sure that we're paid directly with auditing reports directly sent to each party individually. I don't want to be in the business of holding somebody else's money, and nor do I want somebody else holding my money. And that there's a problem.
Them down.
Right. And the licensor is not, paying us, then we can talk to each other and be like, hey, did you get paid? No, I didn't get paid. And then we can do something about it.
Oh, we're coming up to the end of our hour here, and that's the last question I've got on my list. So thank you, Matt. This was a lot of fun, despite the technical issues. It was a good time.
It was fun for the talking head and be like, hey, people, I didn't know. Am I supposed to dance right now? I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm just glad you stuck around and helped me out until I was able to get back on. And I didn't even know if it was going to stay live. I thought maybe it would shut everybody down, and then I was going to cry. Crisis averted, clearly. I hope all of you have enjoyed the show today. Please help us get the word out by sharing our show with your network. If you liked what you saw today, you can just click on the share button that you see below our video here, no matter which channel you're watching us on. I want to remind everyone that you can book a free call with me if you'd like to learn more about how to invent successfully and join the inventionaccelerator.com, or you can go to, if you're not already on YouTube, you can go to the YouTube channel, which is I Can Invent, and you'll see links there for booking a free strategy call with me anytime you'd like. If you missed any part of the show or just want to come back and watch it again for any reason, because this was really fun, please do so using the same link that got you here today. Thank you again, Matt. You rock. Will you still come back and do this again with me soon?
Sure.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
Right.
Next time we're going to make you stand up and show your belly, though.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of your day. Hang on, Matt. Just stick around for one more sec.
Sure.